Okay, this is the setup video for the first lab graphing motion for Physics 151. This is the version for international students since we're having trouble with shipping right now. So we're going to do a slight variation, some modification so that you can still complete the lab. And if you do happen to make it here before the semester ends and you come to UMass, you can grab a kit if you want and finish the rest. And if you're stuck where you are the whole semester, then we'll just keep doing this. So I've created a separate manual, a modified manual for international students. And you can see it here. It's very similar to the one that's on the Moodle site. There's an IOLab setup. Okay, you will not have to do the calibrating the hardware, but you will need to install the software to do some of the things we're going to do. And looking at the data, looking at your data, that video will probably help you too a little bit, although it's going to be slightly different from actually how it's going to be used, how we're going to use it for this modification, but I'll show you how to do all those in the setup videos. So first we're in graphing motion. That's the only one that I have done right now. Okay, so in here we have two parts. We're going to look at position versus time graphs first. Okay, and what I want you to see from this part is that there are basically only 7 types of lines or curves that form any graph you will ever see. Okay, and so we're going to examine what these look like what these lines and curves mean on a position versus time graph, and we're going to do that by using this device we call the IOLab device. And it's like a little cart with lots of sensors in it. It's sort of like an Arduino kind of thing, and it has wheels on the bottom so you can push it around like a little car. And inside it there's this one wheel here. It's a wheel sensor. And I have a whole video on how that works below. But that's what's going to measure and create the graphs here. It's going to measure how far the device moves and how it measures graphs. So make sure to check out that little video too, explaining the direction and everything. Okay, and we're going to use this to create different types of these graphs. Try to replicate these graphs. Okay, so we'll go over to the software, and there's this little cloud button here, and that will go to the online repository where I have all the data stored. Okay, and then you'll look at that in a little bit. But also below here, all right, here's the video I was telling you about the wheel sensor, so that'll explain that a little bit more. And then there's a link here for all the different trials. Okay, so I just have these in alphabetical order. They're not in any particular order. And so I have kind of a description of what they are. Okay, and then you're going to try to match these up with these 7 types of graphs. Okay, and so in your lab report, it looks like this, and you're going to fill this out, and you're going to predict what you think the motion is going to be in column 2, and if you were wrong, you guessed wrong maybe, then you put the actual words in the 3rd column. Okay, and if you were right, you can just leave the 3rd column blank. Okay, and so you'll try to match them up with these here. Okay, so I kind of tried to describe as best as I could what I was doing and in what direction, and so you can watch each of these and try to match them up. Okay, or maybe in your actual motion with words, maybe you want to put the title of the video. Maybe that will be helpful to you. Okay, and And then after you do that, you're going to look at this complex graph here, okay, which I have a video of. You could watch right here in the manual, okay, and you're going to try to figure out what types of motion make up that complex graph, okay, and you're going to describe what happens during each interval, okay. So there's A through E are labeled on here. You're going to describe and here just what's happening, or what the device is doing. Okay, and then there's a couple of analysis questions, and then we move on to part 2, the velocity versus time graphs. Okay, and here's where you're going to start using the software. Okay, so you're going to go to the online repository. Okay, and it's going to open up. I'll have to log off so you could see this is what you will see the first time, okay? And what you're going to need to do is go down here and register as a new user, okay? And I think it will send you an email confirmation. And once you get that, just send me your username or whatever, so that I can add you to the list, okay? So now that I'm logged in here as me, okay, I have a shared data set, okay, where is it, for international students, okay, and I'll add you as members, okay, so that you all can see the data here, okay. So this is the data from all of those videos that you did in part 1, okay. So like if you look at, let's look at this one here. Okay, when I click on that, it opens it up and it shows the graph here. Okay, and you might want to play around with it. So right now it's initially in the regular data mode. So wherever I put my mouse on the graph, it's telling me some information. Like up here, it's telling me time and R. So T for time in seconds, and R for position or distance in meters, okay? And the second button is the zoom, the magnifying glass, and so it's kind of squished down. So I'm going to try to zoom it in, and then I could see a lot better what's happening here with this graph, okay? And then what you're going to do for this part, okay, is let's look at the first one you're going to work with is at rest, okay, and I'm already, you probably guessed this anyway, right? The flat line, it's not moving, okay, and so then what you're going to do, especially for the second part, okay, after you got everything registered, and then we'll go to the manual here. And so what you're going to do is you want to try to predict what the corresponding velocity versus time graph looks like. So we made this position versus time graph, okay? So position on the top, time on the x-axis, or I should say position on the y-axis, time on the x. And you can make a prediction. You can make it in words, or maybe you can draw a little graph or something. I know you can do it like in Pages or Word. You can make little lines like this if you want, or you can describe it. Okay, and then in the all right, and then in the repository, what you're going to do is up here you see all these things that are checked, that have check boxes. Right now it's just the position, the wheel sensor's position. Okay, and now you're going to check off wheel velocity. Okay, and now you go down, and it's hard to see because it's a flat green line right on the 0. But you see again now the velocity is 0. Okay, nice straight line. So now you see what that graph, the corresponding graph, looks like. Okay, and then you could do the same thing for all the other different ones too. Okay, you see this, and then you click on the velocity graph, and you'll see what the corresponding velocity graph looks like. And you can, if you want to zoom in, you can zoom in. Okay, maybe that's too much. If you do too much, you could just click and zoom back out. Okay, it's kind of like a click and drag. Okay. Okay, and then you could take a screenshot and put that in there so you know, and then this might be a nice little study aid for you. So you can see what the position time graph looks like and what the corresponding velocity time graph looks like. Okay, and then again, there is another graph, okay, like at the end of part 1, and here we have the video for it. Okay, and you're going to again in the report worksheet, you're going to say what's happening during each of those intervals. Okay, and then finally, there's some final analysis questions, and so I took some screenshots of those two complex graphs. Okay, so you can play around with that in the repository if you want. Where did it go? Hiding. Okay, so those are in the repository too. Okay, and I labeled them complex velocity versus time graph and complex position versus time graph. And that's what I call them in the analysis questions here. Okay, so you know what I'm referring to. Okay, and if you want, you can play around with the software a bit. And I think there's one of the questions in there in the analysis is asking about different types of data. So like if I do click and drag using the regular data tool, it looks like a histogram there, like the bar chart. It gives me all kinds of data up here, okay? And it gives me the time interval, okay? It gives me mu is an average, okay? And then there's a few other things. And that video, okay, that's in the lab manual, okay, under the IOLab setup, and looking at your data, that will explain a lot of this, a lot of what all these different letters mean, okay? And so it'll look slightly different because they're doing it from right in the software, whereas you need to use the repository. But it'll be in the same thing, okay? And so there's instructions in the manual too, but I kind of explained everything quickly. But the instructions and words might be helpful too. And so follow those instructions. Make sure to check out this video so you understand the coordinate system properly. And let me know if you have any questions, and or if you want to meet on Zoom and we can help you out, or if you guys, all you international students, maybe you want to form a team and work together, that's okay too. So just let me know. All right, and that's it for Lab 1.